Welcome back, everyone. I am Cas Piancey. I'm joined, as usual, by my partner in crime, Mr. Bennett Tomlin. I'm not, bad.
Things are bad.
Everything's bad. Everything is bad right now. I'm not even going to, there's no reason to really even pause and think about it. So we're going to move right along. We're in the midst of a constitutional crisis. I think that is pretty much the only way to put it right now. There's no hyperbole anymore. We have a President of the United States of America who is not obeying court orders. And if you're not obeying court orders that are constitutionally, like you're breaking the Constitution, and the court is saying you need to stop that, and then you just ignore them, that, it's the end of the U.S. Constitution. And I guess I want to talk about how we got here and why it turns out that freedom-fighting cryptocurrency bros maybe aren't that freedom-loving and have actually brought about the end of the U.S. Constitution as we know it. So let's talk about how we got here, Bennett.
Sure.
Why? What am I directly referencing today? Because there's probably 100 constitutional crises.
Yes.
But yeah, what is this one?
Today, specifically, several hundred individuals who the government was in the process of deporting were transferred from United States detention to El Salvador, despite a judge order that specifically said they could not remove these people from the United States, and specifically said even any flights that are already in the air need to be turned around and these people need to be returned to U.S. detention. Moreover, the administration has taken this moment to gleefully promote the fact that they are ignoring the court order. Nayib Bukele, the dictator of El Salvador, had made a post on X.com where he proclaimed something like, too late, when people started posting about the arrival of these individuals in El Salvador. This was retweeted by Marco Rubio and Elon Musk, the special advisor to the president, who has taken on a truly expansive role in this administration, even went so far as to suggest the judge behind the order should be impeached immediately for having the willingness to file an order against the Trump administration.
Yeah, and so we'll pause there just to say, I don't even know if we should bother saying. I think we're going to just skip saying this judge's name.
Yeah, let's not add to that problem.
Yeah, any more attention is bad attention at this point. But basically what Elon Musk is doing, I'm getting death threats every day and it's so hard for me and hard for Tesla, is this is basically putting a death threat out there for a judge because he's naming the judge, he's shaming the judge, and he's saying we need to impeach him. Meanwhile, the Doge team and Donald Trump actively don't obey the Constitution. The idea that they would go about proper procedure and follow the rules and regulations for impeachment of a judge, it's crazy that would even be a thing that we're talking about right now for this judge in particular.
Well, and I think we should pause and be explicit and say that the United States Constitution lays out the grounds for impeachment of a federal judge, and they are only high crimes and misdemeanors, and I struggle to see how this order could possibly be interpreted as either of those, which means Elon Musk is again explicitly advocating for removal of a judge outside of the constitutional process if the constitutional prerequisites have not been met.
Right. So it's it's already unconstitutional and silly, but on top of being unconstitutional and silly, there's no way they would ever try to abide by the Constitution anyway, because they're actively ignoring the Constitution as we speak right now. The reason I want to talk about this, though, isn't just because, the Constitution is getting torn to shreds. Well, that's good enough reason, right? But we are generally focused on cryptocurrency, on monetary policy. I think it's really important to acknowledge who got us here. And who got us here? Cryptocurrency bros did. In 2014, in 2015, in 2016, generally, cryptocurrency people involved in Bitcoin, because that was pretty much the main the main cryptocurrency, the main one with all the liquidity, right? We're libertarians, right? And I know you scratch a libertarian and you get a fascist, but they did have some serious libertarian ideals. And I think that is, you and I have talked about this in previous episodes, but what attracted us to cryptocurrency in general was that it was interesting. It was interesting as a P2P cash, as being decentralized, as not being a nation state currency. The idea that refugees or dissidents could utilize this money outside of their own money to live and survive was cool as an idea. Now, is that what it's used for anymore? No, I don't think it is. I don't think you could argue it never was really used that way, but I think it definitely is not used that way anymore. It's almost entirely speculation. And what has that gotten for the cryptocurrency world? Well, it's gotten you Nayib Bukele, who is now a dictator in chief in El Salvador. This man has no morals. He has no ethics. He does whatever he pleases now. There's no doubt in my mind that the people of El Salvador are happy that he's imprisoning tons and tons of people. Does that mean he's doing it legally and responsibly? No, of course not. That's what Bitcoin helped establish, was the dictator of El Salvador. Also, it got us Donald fucking Trump again, because one issue voters chose this man to jump in to the president's chair again. And now we're having a complete destruction of the Constitution. It's time to take responsibility. You guys did this.
I think that, yeah, and we talked about this in our series of videos about El Salvador, about how disappointing and infuriating it was to watch this group of people who paid lip service to these ideas of freedom and protection from authoritarianism to immediately so wholeheartedly wrap their arms around someone who was so clearly an authoritarian, who broke the Constitution in terms of imprisonments, and broke the Constitution in terms of term limits, marched the army into Congress, messed with the judicial system. There was plenty of well-reported evidence that Nayib Bukele, including by his own fucking tweets, was a dictator. And yet, because he was willing to embrace cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin specifically, that was the most important thing. And like you said, again, we see that with Donald Trump. And there's going to be a lot of cryptocurrency people, executives and stuff like that, who will try to claim that they did not expect Donald Trump to do all the things that Donald Trump is doing. And I think that's obvious bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Donald Trump promised during his campaign to deport more individuals than there were undocumented individuals in the United States. That means, best case, he said he was going to deport people who were not undocumented. And he was exceedingly explicit about this. He said it well over a dozen times, I think, at rallies and speeches. And it reminds me of, there was one quote from a cryptocurrency venture capitalist named Mike Dudas recently that I think emphasized this. Mike Dudas was an investor in World Liberty Financial, a clear and obvious grift from people connected to the president. But as it became increasingly obvious that this was a grift, Mike Dudas tried to separate himself from this project, claiming in this quote that he expected this to be a serious project, but it had devolved into some kind of pay-for-play thing, as though that's not what it was originally. And the God-honest truth is that these cryptocurrency people who have been paying lip service to freedom, to rights, to things like that for years, were always only interested in a single thing, and that was number go up.
Yep.
And they were willing to sacrifice millions, billions, however many people it was necessary in order for them to make themselves believe that number would go up. And you want to know perhaps the most infuriating part of this is the number ain't even fucking going up. They sacrificed the whole fucking thing, the whole fucking game, the whole fucking idea of them being an anti-state technology. They sacrificed all of that. And despite the president's own cryptocurrency company buying millions of dollars of Bitcoin, despite the United States government saying they're not going to sell any more Bitcoin, despite the United States government saying they're going to find budget neutral ways to acquire more Bitcoin, despite all of those things, Bitcoin is still underperforming because it turns out there are more important issues than just whether or not someone can stand on a stage in Miami or Nashville or wherever the fuck the conference was and go, Bitcoin, Russell, bitch, ha!
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of freedom-loving people were actually fucking liars, and specifically advanced fascism using both their words, their wealth, and like their positions of power and influence.
I know we've said this before. I totally get it. This is something I'm repeating from a year and 2 and 3 years ago, probably at this point. But it is very depressing to see people who actually had a pretty interesting concept throw the most interesting part of it into the trash so that number go up. Wow, what a despicable way to just destroy the one positive use case for what was created. And I'm not surprised at this point. I'm just super disappointed. One other thing I think is worth mentioning here is that Tether, who we've been covering now for 7 years of our own time, they're basically in the pocket with the president. They got to go to the White House. They got to, Paolo Arduino.
I think the president is in Tether's pocket, basically.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, exactly, right? They're going to the White House. Howard Lutnick is still, as far as I know, hasn't divested himself from all of that nonsense yet. And what's amazing to me is they're also destroying their main business model. You need a strong dollar. You need the dollar to be the reserve currency of the world for Tether to fucking matter. And guess what they're doing? Guess what they're helping to do right now? Destroy the fucking dollar. So I don't know. All these people only care about money, only care about amassing more of it. And while they do that, they're ruinous to their own bags. It's happening over and over and over again. And I just don't even know. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's so depressing what they're doing to our country, what they're doing to freedom in general, and how they're treating money. It's so despicable and so sad. And that's it. That's what I have. That's what I have to say about all of them.
Yeah. The one thing I think will be important when the opportunity arises is to remember which individuals were advancing this and make sure that they are relegated to a societal space where they no longer have the ability to advance that kind of thing. I think that's as specific as I'm going to get on that for now.
Yeah.
And you also, even more than that, we need to especially remember those who did not just donate or advance it, but took roles in the administration, showed up at administration events after unconstitutional activities, after unlawful detention of green card holders, after violating the Constitution in all these many and varied ways. The ones who continue to show up are the ones who we need to be especially concerned about. I mean, Tyler fucking Winklevoss apparently believes that if Trump hadn't been elected, he would be in prison. And I just have to say, what were you doing, Tyler? What were you doing over at Gemini? No one fucking cares about Gemini except when you guys decide to manipulate markets using your own stacks of Bitcoin. So what the fuck were you doing that was going to get you arrested, Tyler?
Crime. It's legal now. So there you go. And that is the new, by the way, that is the new slogan for Cascoin is, hey, crime's legal now. So buy your Cascoin. Crime is legal now.